welcome to another episode of Keeping London Healthy. I'm your host, Dr. Mario Elia, and we're excited for another episode. We've got some fun things planned for you today. We're going to start off with a bit of a summary about how we're doing in Ontario with COVID and how we're doing with vaccinations. We're going to do a bit of a segment directed at employers and employees for some things to think about when it comes to keeping your workplaces safe and what the vaccination effort means for your workplaces. And lastly, our last segment, we're going to do something really fun. We're going to do a quiz game where we're going to test your knowledge about how well you've all been paying attention during COVID and how well your knowledge is. So some exciting stuff that we've got planned for today. But first, we're going to do a bit of a review about kind of how we're doing in Ontario with COVID and how our numbers look. So as of today, so June 3rd, 2021, Ontario reported 870 new COVID cases today, and sadly 10 deaths. But the thing that's really reassuring, again, early June, is that there's no doubt that cases are coming down and coming down quite quickly. And our 7-day, our 14-day averages in the province are down. If you remember, we're 3,000 cases a day at one point. We're coming down quite nicely. London in low double digits again, and our local cases coming down. So again, a lot of exciting stuff. Part of this is going to be seasonal, right? We know that. Partly is driven by vaccination. More people vaccinated, lower the cases are going to go, and then partly driven by the restrictions that all of us hate, but have been important in getting cases down. So a lot of positives with where numbers are going. And with vaccinations, this is really the exciting story from the last few months, is how well Ontarians have really adopted vaccines. So we know that currently, as of today, June 3rd, 69.6% of people 18 and over in the province have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. And that's still with people booked and getting their first dose in the next few weeks. So we expect, based on polling data, that number will probably get close to 80%. And hopefully we can push it even higher, right? As we get, word of mouth, as we get family doctors more involved in trying to fill the cracks and addressing, those patients who've still been resistant. Hopefully we get up to, at least 80%, hopefully even 85%. Because again, the higher we get, the less chance we have of seeing a fourth wave coming. And that's something that none of us want to see. So, what we're seeing right now is the B117, the old UK strain, and now we're using Greek terms, which we'll get to a little later on. That strain is coming down, but obviously we're seeing an uptick in the Delta strain that used to be called the India variant, but we're calling it the Delta strain now. And we're seeing a bit of an uptick in that variant. And the UK is seeing the majority of their variants actually that Delta strain. So the issue is that the Delta strain, based on stuff we've seen from the UK in the last day or so, it looks to be about twice as transmissible, so twice as contagious, and twice as severe in terms of symptoms people get compared to the other variant. So what does this mean? Does this mean we panic? No, because what they're seeing in the UK is that their vaccines are actually shown to be pretty effective against these variants as well. So where does this all take us? How do we prevent that fourth wave from coming in the fall? Because this is what we all fear, because we're seeing the curves come down now. We're going to have a great end to the summer. We're going to have a great start to the fall. But the question is, how do we prevent a fourth wave, a fourth lockdown that would be a complete disaster? The biggest thing what we can all do to prevent that is to get vaccinated, because regardless of what you're vaccinated with, all the things that are available in Canada right now, they're all effective in preventing not only the strains that we're seeing with UK with the Alpha variant and with the older variant, but with the Delta variant as well. So if you get vaccinated, that's really our main tool of keeping the fourth wave at bay. The thing I tell patients who are vaccine hesitant is that we all agree that we all want the pandemic to end. We all want no more restrictions. We all want to get back to normal. For those who aren't getting vaccinated, what do you propose? Again, I've said this before. What do you propose as your way of keeping this at bay? Because we all have an obligation to do whatever we can to not end up in the ICU ourselves, to not be the person who transmits COVID to that next individual. So vaccination is really our effort. And if we get 80%, if we get 85%, even higher, the likelihood of a fourth wave clogging up our ICUs, causing restrictions to be put in place again, becomes very low. Okay, so again, just something to think about. I know more and more people getting vaccinated. I know more and more people are getting off the fence and finally, rolling up their sleeve and getting their shot. But if you're someone who's still been on the fence, again, it's not too late. Still lots of appointments available. If there's someone in your life who is still on the fence, gentle persuasion is still important, right? Don't give up on them just because they've been kind of resistant up to this point. Lots of people are initially resistant, and kind of just through gentle reminders and persuasion often to change our mind as well. All right, so that's a bit of a summary as to kind of where we are in the province with both cases and vaccination. So again, a really optimistic story there. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about vaccination efforts in the workplace and what employers and employees need to be thinking about. All right, welcome back. So again, we're going to switch gears to talking about vaccinations in the workplace and what kind of things employers and employees need to be thinking about as we move forward with our vaccination efforts and making sure that as many of us get vaccinated as possible. So I'll direct this to employers first. So all of you who I know have been through so much through this pandemic, whether it's putting new procedures and policies in place at work, contact tracing, worrying about your staff getting sick, businesses being closed, so many disruptions that I know so many of you have suffered. And again, I sincerely hope that we don't have to go through this ever again and we don't have a fourth wave. So as an employer, how can we help your business to stay safe and to prevent you from being disrupted? So the biggest thing, no surprise to you guys, is going to be getting as many of your employees vaccinated as possible. And how do you go about doing this? So obviously the legalities around this are a bit tricky in terms of enforcing and making sure that your employees get vaccinated. And depending on your workplace, there may or may not be legislation supporting that. But assuming that you don't have that kind of legislation, how do you go about having your workplace be as pro-vaccine as possible? So one kind of simple thing right off the bat is making sure that you at least have a conversation with staff. Encouraging them to vaccinate, not necessarily asking them their vaccination status, but encouraging them and telling them what you know about COVID, letting them know how serious it is, letting them know the implications of what would happen in a workplace if they were to get sick, just to kind of plant the seed that they know how serious this is to you. Number two, making sure that you know and they know that potentially you would be able to offer X amount of hours off of work, paid perhaps, to go get their vaccination. Again, for some employees, that alone may actually tip the scales to having them get vaccinated if they know that they can get some time off to go get their vaccine. A third thing is making sure that they understand kind of what it means in the workplace to get COVID or to put their their fellow employees at risk. So what does this mean? They need to know that they could potentially come to work, no symptoms, and be contagious. Something we all know and we've been following this whole time, but it's really important that they understand that just because they come to work and check that box saying they don't have a fever or don't have a cough today, that doesn't mean that they don't actually have COVID. And reminding them how many situations at work involve close contact, right? Whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a factory, so many opportunities at work are there for transmission to coworkers. And breaks, reminding them, when you have a break, are you unmasked? A lot of coworkers are during, and reminding them that not only are they putting themselves at risk, their coworkers at risk, they're putting their coworkers' families at risk if there's someone immunosuppressed in their family. They're putting their own paychecks at risk, right? If there's an outbreak at work and things have to shut down for a week or two while the outbreak's managed. So again, as an employer, making sure that your employees understand these principles, understand how important vaccination is to preventing these things, and understanding their role. Because there are very few workplaces that involve in-person work where there's no risk of transmission for COVID. Secondly, I'm going to flip this around to employees. So again, for employees, if you work anywhere where you are in any contact with a coworker, even masked, even distanced, you have to think there's going to be some opportunity for you to come into close contact with a coworker, right? I think in our office, we're in a medical office, everyone's masked all the time, but what happens in lunchrooms, right? Masks come off. Yes, they're distanced, but some COVID is aerosolized. Are there times where you go up to a coworker while masked and ask them a question, look at their computer, and you're within 6 feet of them, right? That's an opportunity to transmit COVID as well. And you have to think, is that again an opportunity for you to spread COVID to your coworker unknowingly, and then to their family? And that's the last thing any of us want to do. If you're in a business setting where you have customers or patients, do you want to unknowingly be spreading COVID to those individuals? And again, this is as cases come down. I know the tendency and the feeling is going to be that there's less of a drive to get vaccinated because cases are coming down on their own. Do I really need to get vaccinated? This is all to prepare for the fall, right? That's the reason all of us are doing this right now. Yes, it's to bring cases down quickly right now, and vaccines are having an effect there, but it's to prevent that fourth wave. And I've heard the argument from some that, well, I'm going to hold off now, and if cases go up again, I'll get vaccinated then. The problem is that you need to give the vaccine enough time to build up in your system. And we know that you don't get full protection until 2 weeks after that second dose. So even if the time comes in the fall where you decide, yep, I'm getting vaccinated finally, you have to add at least 6 weeks onto that until you actually are going to get the full protection. So it's not, thinking you're just going to make this decision when cases go up. It's going to be too late at that point, and you're not going to have nearly as much impact on protecting your community as you would be if you got vaccinated early on. So the whole delay, I understand why people are maybe wanting to delay, but that's really not the ideal strategy because it's not going to have as much of an effect as we could. Okay, so those are my the things that again employees and employers need to know. None of you who work in a work environment want to put your coworkers at risk. You all want to do your best for your customers, your patients, your coworkers, your employers. You want to keep the business going. And really, vaccination is a critical piece of that. And we've talked about safety and we've talked about effectiveness, so I'm not going to blather on about that today. But I just wanted to direct the importance, especially in a workplace, of getting vaccinated because we've seen so many outbreaks, both here in London and Ontario, that have been workplace driven, and we don't want to see these places be shut down anymore. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back from the break, we'll be playing our COVID-19 quiz game. So grab a pen and paper and be ready to see who among your friends and family know the most about COVID. All right, welcome back. So it's time for our COVID-19 quiz. So we've been talking about COVID-19 for a year and a half now. You guys have all learned far too much about it, but let's put that information and knowledge to the test. So we're going to do some quiz questions. So again, grab pen and paper, play with friends and family. Let's see who does the best. And we'll go question by question here, and it's multiple choice. So question number 1, to prevent spreading COVID-19, what is the safest way of getting together with family? Is it indoors, distanced, and unmasked? Indoors, any distance, masked? Or outdoors, distanced, unmasked? Question number 2, does the COVID-19 vaccine integrate into your own DNA? Yes or no? Question number 3, can you get COVID-19 from getting the COVID-19 vaccine? Yes or no? Question number 4. As of today, June 3rd, 2021, how many people have died worldwide of COVID-19? Is it 36,000, 360,000, or 3,690,000? Question number 5. How effective are the current vaccines in preventing hospitalization and death from COVID-19 once fully vaccinated? 30%, 50%, or nearly 100%? Question number 6. Does the COVID-19 vaccine affect fertility? Yes or no? Question number 7. How does most COVID-19 spread? Person to person, contaminated surfaces, or ghosts? Number 8. What does the 19 in COVID-19 refer to? Is it the 19 proteins on the virus, the fact that this is the 19th coronavirus, or the year 2019? Question number 9. The naming of COVID-19 variants has now switched to Greek letters. What is the new name of the variant formerly referred to as the UK variant? The Alpha, Beta, or Gamma variant? Question number 10. What country has had the most COVID-19 cases since the start of the pandemic? India, United States, or Brazil? Question number 11. What country has had the most COVID-19 deaths since the start of the pandemic? India, the United States, or Brazil? Question number 12, final question. What type of COVID-19 vaccine did Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford get as their first dose? Moderna, Pfizer, or AstraZeneca? Just give you guys 1 second there to scratch out any quick responses, and we're gonna fly through the answers here. Get back to question number 1. To prevent spreading COVID-19, what's the safest way of getting together with family? And the correct answer is outdoors, distance, and unmasked. So this is kind of the thing we've been pushing for many, many months now, that being outdoors undoubtedly is much, much safer than being indoors in terms of any interaction with others. So that was the correct answer for that. Does the COVID-19 vaccine integrate into your own DNA? The answer is no, absolutely it does not. It cannot possibly do that. It's mRNA, and the strands are quickly degraded in your own system and cannot possibly integrate into your own DNA. All right, next question. Can you get COVID-19 from getting the COVID-19 vaccine? The answer is no. You cannot possibly get it from getting the vaccine, because none of the vaccines are actually giving you COVID-19 virus that's part of the vaccine. So it can't possibly cause COVID as part of getting the vaccine. The next question. As of June 3rd, how many people have died worldwide of COVID? The correct answer, sadly, is 3,690,000. It's an astronomical number that none of us ever thought we would get to. But sadly, we've already passed 3.5 million deaths worldwide from COVID. How effective are current vaccines in preventing hospitalization and death from COVID-19 once fully vaccinated? The correct answer is nearly 100%. So there have been a handful, and by a handful, I mean literally counting on one hand, cases of deaths in the United States from people who have been fully vaccinated. I know there was a case in Ottawa, a couple of cases in Ottawa of long-term care home patients who have died after being fully vaccinated. But again, we're talking about nearly 100% effectiveness, again, preventing hospitalization and death, which is truly incredible. Next question, does the COVID-19 vaccine affect fertility? The answer is no, it does not, despite rumors that you have seen online. It does not affect fertility. And actually all gynecologic organizations have strongly encouraged women to get vaccinated. How does most COVID-19 spread? The correct answer is person to person. Ghosts is a compelling choice, but I can tell you confidently, it's person to person. This is different than what we thought initially with the pandemic, that we were all washing groceries and washing everything down compulsively. You know, that's done well for preventing other viruses from being transmitted, but COVID is nearly all person to person contact. What does the 19 stand for in COVID-19? Correct answer is the year 2019. So I know that was some again myths early on about this, why weren't the first 18 COVIDs serious? That it's not the 19th COVID. It's named at because of the year. The naming of COVID-19 variants has switched to Greek letters. What's the new name of the variant known as formerly known as the UK variant? And that's the Alpha variant. So we're already almost running out of Greek letters, and it's not even June. But right now, so the old UK variant is Alpha. The old South African variant is Beta. The old Brazil variant is Gamma, and the old India variant is now known as Delta. So hopefully we get away from using those old country names and use their new names. And again, the variant we're most concerned about now rising is that Delta variant. What countries had the most COVID-19 cases? The answer is, not surprisingly, the United States. And that leads us to the next question. Which countries have the most COVID-19 deaths? Also, our neighbors to the south, they've had the most deaths of any country in the world due to COVID. Again, quite sad. And last question of the quiz, what type of COVID-19 vaccine did Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford get as their first dose? That was the AstraZeneca vaccine. All right, so how did you do on the quiz? Feel free to reach out to us on social media on our Rogers TV Facebook page and let us know. We'd love to know how you did. So just going to address a question I've been getting fairly commonly in the last couple of weeks with cases coming down. People have been asking, well, what does this mean in terms of what we'll be able to do in the summer and the fall, and kids back in school in the fall? How do we think things are going to go? So I'll address that really quickly. With cases coming down as quickly as they are, and with so many people being vaccinated, I'm optimistic really about what things will look like in the fall for schools, elementary, high school, post-secondary, and with those schools actually staying open. And again, I'm optimistic that, if parents still have the opportunity to decide, do I send my kids back to school? Do I not? Sending them, if you've been reluctant up until now because of your concerns about COVID, I can pretty confidently tell you, short of, crazy variants coming up, that we'll be able to really be in a kind of a relatively safe school environment come the fall. And schools is just going to be one piece of, I think, a lot of the things that are going to be excitingly open come late summer, early fall. Sporting events are going to be back. Churches will be back, hopefully running full steam. Weddings, funerals, having parties with our loved ones. All of these things are going to be things that are going to be reasonable to get back into in a fully vaccinated society with low community spread. But that comes with one pitfall is that there's lots more opportunity for spread, right? Because we think of how well COVID has spread, even despite so many things being closed, right? Think how many fewer opportunities you have to engage with any other people. We talked about, those things I just mentioned, sporting events, schools, churches. There were so many opportunities in the past to spread viruses. And we haven't been doing any of those things, and COVID's still been spreading. So we're going to go back into the fall with all of those things some masked, some not, and COVID's going to have an opportunity to spread. So how do we mitigate that? Broken record on this, but this is where vaccinations can be so important, because some of these places will insist on vaccines, some may not, right? I can't imagine many churches are going to be insisting that you need a vaccine to show up to church. Right, I don't think that's going to be something that many churches are going to enforce. So it's really going to be the honor system of, well, how, what can you bring to the table of protecting everyone you're there with at church, at your synagogue, at your mosque, at a sporting event, at a church, at a party you go to, because again, these are all potential sources of spread for someone who is pre-symptomatic. So you're not having symptoms yet; you're in that 2 days before. And really, vaccines are going to be the key to this. So, we want all these things to reopen, and I think they will reopen. I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing them in the summer and fall, but we want to keep doing them through the fall, through the winter. We want to get through a whole cycle of doing these things and not having to worry about a fourth wave cramping our style yet again. So again, just the importance of vaccination. I know all of you guys have thought about this, and a lot of you have gotten it, but just one more plug for that. So again, thanks for tuning in today. Hopefully you guys had fun with our game today, a bit of a fun quiz, and we'll be back next month with another episode of Keeping London Healthy. Take care.